It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
We love our weekends here on ZiFM Sport, and this past one was especially special. Lots of action if you're a local cricket fan, and plenty plus action if you love your international football. And that's why we love our Monday shows even more, because we get to talk about the weekend that was in the company of knowledge, entertainment, and plenty of information. And it comes in the guise of Chris Meadsy, Barry Manandi. I am Mike Madoda. Our producer is Sean Tafidinyika. On the home front, despite a magnificent 8th wicket partnership of 187 between Sean Williams and Donald Tiripano, the Chevrons went down to Afghanistan by 6 wickets in the second test as the hosts leveled the 2-match series 1-1. We were all expecting a whitewash. We were expecting Zimbabwe to stamp their authority. We'll get to hear from former Test player Dirk Viljoen on what Zimbabwe must do if they're to take their performances up to the next level. We'll also have international sport. Rugby is front and center, and Billy Vunipola admits that England's impressive Six Nations win over France is tinged with disappointment of knowing that pride and not silverware is at stake on the final weekend.
We'll have more international sports news for you when we take you around the world in 60, starting off in California, where Justin Thomas expressed his gratitude to Tiger Woods for his support that inspired him to victory at the Players' Championship. In Ahmedabad, Virat Kohli and debutant Ishan Kishan smashed 50s as India stormed to a series-leveling victory over England in the second T20 International. And we'll touch down in Dubai, where Gabina Muguruza capped her strong start to the season with a first WTA title for nearly 2 years at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships.
We'll then take our play of the day. Then it's time for the Castle Lager World Football Report. We kick off in the Premier League, where Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta said the Gunners are still eyeing a top 4 finish in pursuit of Champions League football following their win over rivals Tottenham Hotspur in the North London derby. In Italy, according to head coach Andrea Pirlo, Cristiano Ronaldo channeled his anger at Juventus's Champions League exit in midweek into a decisive display in the Bianconeri's 3-1 win over Cagliari yesterday. And in Spain, Atletico Madrid coach Diego Simeone admits his La Liga leaders are nervous after their 0-0 draw with Getafe. All of that and so much more to look forward to on this edition of ZiFM Sport. But first, it's our power play. Today's Manic Monday. We call upon Selena Gomez. She teams up with DJ Snake. This one's called Selfish Love.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Don't forget, we love to keep it interactive right here on your favorite sports show. Get in touch with @ZiFM Sport on Twitter. Your thoughts, your views, your reaction to Zimbabwe's humbling defeat in the second test match versus Afghanistan. And that's the story we lead with on Monday's edition of ZiFM Sport. Despite a magnificent 8th wicket partnership of 187 between skipper Sean Williams and Donald Tiripano, Zimbabwe went down to Afghanistan by 6 wickets in the second test as the hosts leveled the 2-match series 1-1. Afghanistan bowler Rashid Khan continued his fairy tale rise at the international level with 7 for 137 in a marathon 62.5 over effort to end Zimbabwe's resistance-packed second innings on 365 soon after lunch on the fifth and final day. The Chevrons' second innings total left Afghanistan needing 108 to win in 45 overs, and they achieved that for the loss of 4 wickets. So the tail of the tape in that second test, Afghanistan versus Zimbabwe. Afghanistan batting first, a mammoth 544 for 4 on the back of Hashmatula's double century. He made 200, not out. Askar Afghan was the supporting act with 164. The pick of our bowlers, Ryan Burl, just a solitary wicket for 69. Showing you that it was very hard going for our bowlers. Zimbabwe in reply could only muster 287 in the first innings. Sikandar Raza 85, decent score, ably supported, or you could say that, by Prince Mashaure on 65. The bowlers that did the damage for Afghanistan: Rashid Khan 4 for 138, Amir Hamza 3 for 73. Zimbabwe had to follow on, and in that follow-on second innings, 365. Sean Williams 151 not out, a captain's knock, and Donald Tiripano falling disappointingly just 5 runs short of what would have been a magnificent maiden century. He fell for 95, and the man who did the damage, that man again, Rashid Khan, 7 for 137. It meant that Afghanistan had very little work to do. They needed 108 in 45 overs, and they managed to get there for the loss of 4 wickets. Ramat Shah 58, Burl picking up 2 wickets, Muzarabani likewise 2 for 25. Afghanistan winning the second test by 6 wickets. So now, Barry, you've got to say this was a disappointing performance, wasn't it, from the Chevrons? We all expected a whitewash, especially after that convincing first test victory.
We did, but we did warn the team, as it were, on the show previewing this second test, saying that Afghanistan will come back guns blazing. They wouldn't make the mistakes that they made in the first test, and we had to come geared up. And in truth, with this turning track, we just simply never found our rhythm, whether with the ball and with the bat.
Well, what do you say, Barry, of those that say that we were crippled by our lack of a specialist spinner?
I would totally agree with him wholeheartedly. If there was anything above 100%, I'll go to 110% agree with him. On the basis that you look at it, we had part-timers bowling. Look at this test alone. Ryan Burl, the only one who made a breakthrough in the first innings when Afghanistan put that mammoth 545. And then in the second innings, it's Ryan Burl again, a part-time spinner who made the breakthrough, 2 for 16. So you look at it, our paceman didn't get any purchase out of this track. That being said, it means then that we need a specialist spinner. Do we have one? I don't think so. I think that Zimbabwe cricket, the ones that are there, we've mentioned Shingi Masagadza in this conversation, I don't think they can be trusted at this level. So we definitely need to develop one, or we need to give Mike Madoda a call and ask him to come and turn his arm over.
I think I'll do a decent enough job, Barry, but the one person who does certainly agree with you, I don't know if he agrees with you about giving Mike Madoda a chance to roll his arm over, but he agrees with you for Zimbabwe's need for a specialist spinner. As former Zimbabwe test player and cricket pundit Dirk Viljoen, let's hear his thoughts.
Yeah, I suppose the second test probably went the way we thought it might, that Afghanistan would come back harder. In the end, I think a great test series by 2 minnow nations. Zimbabwe winning the first one comfortably, and the second one, you could say Afghanistan winning comfortably, but Zimbabwe fought back really well, and that's a good sign for the future. There were some great individual performances, the captain being one of them. I think the stark sort of elephant in the room is the fact that Zimbabwe played 2 test matches without a frontline spinner, and the argument might be that we don't have one. My concern is that if you don't find one very quickly, you're going to be in trouble for a couple of years. You cannot go into those test matches, let alone in the subcontinent, without a frontline spinner. And I'd hope that Zimbabwe has identified that, because they've got Pakistan coming up, they've got Bangladesh coming up, and they need that frontline spinner who's accurate and he's going to put some pressure My one concern maybe is that Zimbabwe lost that test match in that first innings because of maybe some ill discipline, and I don't want to blame it on the bowlers solely, but if you have a look at the maybe maiden count, if you have a look at the amount of balls in the right areas, I didn't get to see the wagon wheels or where the Afghanistan players scored, but the little bit that I did watch was both sides of the wicket. And I know that you can't just wake up one morning and have a Jofra Archer or Wasim Akram in your squad, but the reality is you got to work with what you've got, and maybe Zimbabwe need to work on those disciplines. And discipline can roll on only from your bowlers being able to bowl one side of the wicket, so your captain can set a field and you can build some pressure, but discipline as well, I guess, from the batsman. And I think Donald Tirapano showed exactly as a tail ender, all due respect from him, he is a tail ender, that with a little bit of commitment and dedication and showing some real grit, that even he was able to bat for long periods, and Zimbabwe would need to look deep into that on why more of them couldn't do that. There were some great starts from some of our batsmen and they couldn't convert. I think that the long-term solution to that is Zimbabwe cricket being able to play more competitive cricket. And yes, test matches is competitive cricket, but my question is our provincial cricket competitive enough? And if it means that once every 2 weeks or once a month that Zimbabwe has a game between pick of the leagues, 22 players, strength on strength, just to give these batsmen or the bowlers a little bit more competition to take them to the next level. India has proved that A tours have been the reason why their cricket is a success, and I think that that's something Zimbabwe needs to look at as well. Our A teams need to tour so that step up isn't too big. You're going from what I believe is not an overly competitive provincial structure straight into test cricket, and that sort of, I guess, leads on to some of the players that have done really well in domestic cricket and didn't really achieve in the two tests, in that step up is quite high. And you have a look at Wesley Madaveri, that, you know, he is maybe the golden boy of Zimbabwe cricket at the moment, but it's slowly move forward and allow him to develop himself. You cannot stop social media putting pressure on him, and that's going to happen. Zimbabwe just need to sit down with him and say to him, you are the future of Zimbabwe cricket, and we believe in you, we trust in you, and we believe that you can take Zimbabwe cricket forward. You're the new wonder boy, but take your time. There's no rush, and if the team can help him out on that, he can take it to the next level. But I just fear that chucking him the label of Zimbabwe's new saving grace and this new hero that Zimbabwe's got is just going to put pressure on him. He needs time. He needs to find his feet. He needs to be comfortable. He needs to gain experience, which he doesn't have, and it will come. It will come. I hope that Zimbabwe give those players another chance, the ones that have played. You can't really judge on two test matches. There might be a couple of areas where they look that players were out of their depth. But for me, three critical areas. Our bowlers not disciplined enough in maintaining line and length in one area that's going to build pressure against the opposition. Two, our batsmen not applying themselves correctly. 30s and 40s are great, but they're not going to win you test matches. And more importantly, I guess, is the bowling attack looked a little bit toothless. Zimbabwe need to find that frontline spinner that's going to bowl you lots of overs, and then your part-time spinners can come and assist. But going into a test match with part-time spinners only is going to get you into trouble.
Z.
Chris, Dirk echoing Barry's thoughts there on the need for a frontline spinner in the Chevrons ranks. But where else, apart from that fact, which obviously was an Achilles heel for the Chevrons, where else did it go wrong for Zimbabwe?
I think it's quite clear that our bowlers lacked discipline. If you take a look at that Afghanistan performance, we failed to build that pressure. Our bowlers failed to build the pressure on the Afghanistan batsmen. It was a flat deck, and we needed to basically put pressure on them, reduce that scoring, and get them to make a couple of mistakes. And we didn't manage to do that. They were scoring freely. They were comfortable. You could tell in their disposition. So that's one of the areas I think that we could have done better.
I actually heard over the stump mic, Mike, just to add over the stump mic, Mike, I heard the captain, Sean Williams, having a bit of a back and forth with Blessing Mzarabani, talking about hitting the right areas. And he was complaining that Blessing Mzarabani was not hitting the right areas, the areas which they had agreed. So for me, I think that's the issue of discipline that Chris is mentioning, that Dirk also spoke about, whereby our pacemen, albeit yes, it was a flat track, they could have done better about their bowling disciplines, line and length.
Line and length, and I guess that will come with the experience of playing regular test cricket, especially in those conditions. But it just can't be about the bowlers, the batsmen as well. They failed Zimbabwe. If you take a look at that first innings effort by Zimbabwe, some of the batsmen going missing, and once again, Chris, Wesley Madevere not performing, and his performances on this tour as far as the test cricket is concerned, they make for sorry reading, don't they?
They make for sorry reading. It's disappointing. This is one of the players we were looking at and saying these are the young bright sparks that Zimbabwe's cricket is giving an opportunity, and for him to not even be able to score a single run is incredibly disappointing. I also think that there's a bit of possibly a mental block there after the first one that may have occurred, and it's going to take the coaching staff, it's going to take some administrative sit downs with him to actually have that discussion.
Yeah, and of course, he's still relatively inexperienced, and he'll need to be managed, and we'll also need to manage our expectations around the young man. Let's not forget, he's just 19 years old, and he needs plenty of time. Now, talking about strategy, Barry, to turn our performances around, to make sure that, you know what, all the optimism that we had around the Chevrons before they started the second test, how do we carry on with momentum? How do we rectify the wrongs of that second test, not just in the short term, but in the long term, to make sure that we are not just a topsy-turvy side that wins one test and then is thumped the next, that doesn't know where the wins or how the wins are coming from? What do we need to do?
I think the Dirk put a fine point out in the sense that he spoke about our domestic league not being competitive enough, and I agree with him that it's not competitive enough. The one thing that ZC got right and the selectors got right was blooding in new blood into this team, blooding in new players, and making sure the youngsters had a go. But we've clearly realized that the step up in class is a little too high, and that's with full respect to Afghanistan. Afghanistan themselves are not necessarily one of the best. So what we need to do is make sure that we're bridging between playing our first class cricket here domestically, which isn't good enough, we agreed on that, and making the step up to test cricket. So what we need to do, the A tours, I absolutely believe and agree with Dirk Viljoen, if we start having A tours where the Zimbabwe A side is able to tour South Africa, able to tour India, and able to get onto decks similar to this, able to go into different conditions. A Wesley Madevere, who we all believe is the future of the game, will then have that step up and be able to manage his transition.
Absolutely, and of course we mustn't forget though that even though Zimbabwe lost, there were some performances that need to be commended. Sean Williams played a captain's knock in that second innings, 151. He was left stranded after 465 minutes of defiant batting, and that is his highest score in that format. His previous best was 119, which came against the Black Caps of New Zealand in Bulawayo 5 years ago. And then spare a thought for bowler Don Tiripano, unlucky to miss out on a well-deserved 100 by 5 runs when he was trapped leg before by Rashid on the stroke of lunch. And of course, a lot of fans looking at some of the umpiring decisions in Zimbabwe's second innings, especially the tail end. The last couple of decisions looked iffy, if not dodgy at best. This victory, Afghanistan's third in 6 tests, while a test series win remains elusive for Zimbabwe since beating Bangladesh at home in 2004. So there's still plenty of work to do.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Z
Let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with netball, where Zimbabwe netball captain Surrey Storm goal defender Felistas Kwangwa made it into the starting lineup for the first time against log leaders Loughborough Lightning in the English Netball Super League on Saturday. Kwangwa, who had been coming on as a substitute since joining the Storm, was one of 3 changes to the starting lineup in their 56-37 defeat to the log leaders. The loss to Loughborough Lightning was Surrey Storm's second successive defeat of the weekend after narrowly going down 49-46 to 7 Stars on Friday night. Surrey Storm are currently 8th on the 11-team Netball Super League table. Let's go on to swimming news, where Zimbabwe rising star Denilson Ciprianis is set to take part in his first National Collegiate Athletics Association event after making the cut in the 200-meter backstroke event in the United States of America. Ciprianis excelled at the Bluegrass Mountain Conference that saw him being selected as part of 7 swimmers that will represent Carson Newman University at the NCAA Division II Swimming Conference scheduled, which begins on Wednesday. And then let's wrap it up with the news of a sports administrative nature, where the SRC, the Sports and Recreation Commission, has opened the door for the resumption of medium and high-risk sport by calling on the respective associations to submit their applications for approval. During a virtual press conference this morning, the SRC say they will recommend the resumption of medium and high-risk sport to government, provided associations meet the financial prerequisites and COVID-19 health and safety protocols. And the Sports Commission also said approval for resumption could come as early as Thursday, provided medium and high-risk sports meet all the prerequisites. We certainly hope that they do.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport. Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Right, let's give you an update what's happening in the Six Nations, where Billy Vunipola admits England's impressive 23-20 win over France is tinged with the disappointment of knowing that pride and not silverware is at stake on the final weekend. Maro Itoje's late try at Twickenham on Saturday powered Eddie Jones's men to their best win since the 2019 World Cup to lift the fallen Six Nations champions out of the doldrums at the expense of France's Grand Slam ambitions. Mike, for the first time I think we saw England having a bit of character, and shucks, it couldn't have come at a better time, because losing to France would have yielded the scepter of them losing all their games in this competition, barring, of course, an easy victory against Italy.
Yeah, I think Eddie Jones' tenure would have been rather tenuous had he lost to France. And so this is a morale-boosting victory in two ways. The first one, obviously, with those that employ Eddie Jones, giving them belief that he's the right man for the job if he can mastermind a victory against a side that was actually tipped to perhaps go all the way alongside with Wales to winning the Six Nations Championship. This is a very good France side. So they would have at least said, you know what, hang on, that may have just been a blip. And also to the side as well, because they'd lost to Scotland, they'd lost to Wales, 2 teams that under normal circumstances England would have expected to beat. So the side itself got a bit of a boost, because they now believe that, hang on, perhaps we just suffered a dip. We may be back, and we can, of course, score impressive victories. And so it was a good one. And at the heart of it was a very good performance from their captain, Owen Farrell. I thought he did the basics right. He led well. He communicated very decently with the ref, because that's been a weakness of his. He's not a good communicator, and you and I know, Barry, how you manage the ref in rugby is critical. It's important to how he sees things at the breakdown, to how he sees, those decisions that he has to make that fall in the grey areas. Yeah. Does he go for you or does he go against you? And Richie McCaw was a master at managing the referee. And that's why Richie McCaw used to get the calls coming his way, because he knew how to talk to referees. He knew how to give them the respect when they needed it and how to put them under pressure. And I think Owen Farrell needs to improve in his communication if he is to become a better captain. But for England, they'll be happy. They beat the old enemy, France.
They did indeed, Chris, and it being a come-from-behind victory, I think makes it all the more sweeter, albeit that we agreed that it was a bit of a Pyrrhic victory because they're not really in the competition, are they?
Not necessarily really in the competition, but I think they gave France a really good run for their money. I think it was a brilliant spectacle of attacking rugby. France was absolutely brilliant, and I think two standout performers on the France side, Antoine Dupont and Damien Penaud, absolutely brilliant. And it was a great match to watch, refreshing to see England playing the way they were. And if they do continue on this particular trajectory, it's going to be fantastic. But in terms of actually being in the running, I think it's over for England.
Mike, you say that it did the power of good for Eddie Jones and retaining his position as England head coach. Where do you sit on that? You still believe he's the right man for England?
Well, I don't think he'd have lost his job, but I just think that the knives would have been out had he lost. Because the people would have been able to say, okay, you know what, we can forgive you for losing one. We can perhaps say, okay, bad patch if you lose two. But if you lose three, that becomes a very bad season. And we know that the teams that you're losing to, Scotland, Wales, and France, are not the teams that we benchmark against.
Yeah.
We want to win the World Cup. So we compare ourselves to the All Blacks. We compare ourselves to the Springboks, the defending champions, and to Australia. The Southern Hemisphere nations are the benchmark. If you want to see if you're making progress as a Northern Hemisphere nation, you judge it by the amount of victories you're able to register against the Southern Hemisphere nations in the lead up to the World Cup. If you don't beat those sides, you go into a World Cup tournament knowing that you're just there to make up the numbers. And so if you then lose to Scotland, Wales, France, that means you got no hope in hell come the All Blacks or Springboks.
You haven't got a prayer, and this is a very good Wales side because that's who we're talking about next. They comfortably shrugged off Italy 48-7 at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome to stay on course for the Six Nations Grand Slam. They haven't lost, they haven't drawn, they've won all four of their games. Wales absolutely imperious, and as Mike is saying, if you're losing to the likes of Wales a good side, but Southern Hemisphere is where you should be targeting. Johnny Sexton kicked a 77th minute penalty to hand Ireland a 27-24 victory at Murrayfield after Scotland had overturned a 14-point deficit late on. That's your Six Nations update, but there was other rugby all over the world. Well, let's give you the Six Nations log very quickly before we do that. Wales is on top, having won all four of their games. Ireland in second, France in third, England is in fourth, Scotland in fifth, and then Italy is in sixth. Let's go down now to Oceania and talk about a Super Rugby Aotearoa and the results this past weekend. Crusaders 39-17 over the Chiefs. The Blues, a fantastic victory over the Highlanders. They won 39-17. Mike, it hasn't gone well for the Chiefs, and it doesn't look to be getting any brighter. Yes, it was top versus bottom when they played the Crusaders, and so it went according to the form book. But in truth, the Chiefs need to pull the finger out, and fast.
I don't think it was a poor Chiefs performance, Barry. I think the Chiefs were actually game for at least the first half of this game. This was the classic case of losing to a better side. The Crusaders pulled away in the second half of that match. Their accuracy and their efficiency with ball in hand meant that the Chiefs couldn't live with them over the course of 80 minutes, just like the Blues and Highlanders result as well. You know, you can't fault the Highlanders for effort. They were just beaten by a better side. And I think what's ominous for Super Rugby Aotearoa is the fact that the Crusaders look like they're improving with each outing. They look like they're getting better and better. Their big players are coming into the game. Richie Mwanga, Will Jordan, the finishing power that they have, Barry, to execute and finish moves is second to none.
Second to none indeed. And in keeping with that very alliteration that Mike has just given us of Super Rugby Aotearoa, the Crusaders on top. The Blues are in second, Crusaders on 14 points, the Blues on 9 points. In third are the Highlanders on 5 points. The Hurricanes have played 2, lost 2, so they don't have any points. Chiefs played 2, lost 2. They're also on 0 points. Super Rugby AU is also on in Australia. The Rebels prevailing over the Force 10-7, and then the Brumbies losing to the Reds 40 points to 38 in a high-scoring, entertaining affair. But it's the Brumbies that lead the way in Super Rugby AU table, and in second are the Reds, third Rebels, fourth is the Force, and the Waratahs are in fifth.
Hi, I'm JC Krill, Springbok and Blue Bulls backline player. You are listening to ZiFM Sports.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in California, where Justin Thomas expressed his gratitude to Tiger Woods for his support that inspired him to victory at the Players' Championship, describing his final round 68 as one of the best rounds of my life, tee to green. With overnight leader Lee Westwood and last week's Bay Hill champion Bryson DeChambeau scrambling hard to stay in contention after both made erratic starts, Thomas seized his chance and powered to the lead with a sensational run of scoring around the turn. We'll head over to Ahmedabad, where Virat Kohli and debutant Ishan Kishan smashed 50s as India stormed to a series-levelling 5-wicket victory over England in the second T20 international. After England's crushing win in the series opener, India produced a similarly dominant display as they chased down 165 with 2.1 overs to spare, with Kohli sealing it with a 6 to become the first batsman to 3,000 runs in T20 international cricket. And we'll touch down in Dubai, where Gabina Muguruza capped her strong start to the season with the first WTA title for nearly 2 years at the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Championship. Muguruza completed a 7-6, 6-3 victory over surprise Czech finalist Barbara Krejcikova to claim her first title since Monterrey in April 2019.
The Castle Lager Premier Soccer League, La Liga, Serie A, the English Premier League, the Bundesliga. It all comes together with the Castle on the Castle Lager World Football Report.
The Premier League was headlined by the North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspur. But before we get to that big game, here are the rest of your weekend results. Newcastle, the Magpies, leaving it late to snatch a point from Aston Villa at St James's Park. It ended in a 1-1 draw. Chelsea and Leeds United could not be separated. It ended goalless, but in a very thrilling encounter. Crystal Palace beat West Brom 1-0. Everton upended at home by Burnley 2-1. It means it's been a good place to visit. Merseyside has been for Sean Dyche and his men. Manchester City too good for Fulham 3-0. Southampton lost the South Coast derby 2-1 to Brighton, and Leicester City were emphatic, beating Sheffield United 5-0. Now the big game was the North London derby, and Gunners manager Mikel Arteta says that Arsenal are still eyeing a top 4 finish in pursuit of Champions League football following their come-from-behind 2-1 win over rivals Tottenham Hotspur in the derby. Let's hear from the Spaniard.
We were the better side. We were very dominant, very confident, and we, I think, for big periods apart from the last 10 minutes, I think we were outstanding to play with the level that Spurs has to create the amount of situation and chances that we created, to be as aggressive as we were to regain the ball and play with the personality that we showed. I think it was great. I'm so proud of the players, the way they played, the spirit that they are showing, and the energy that I sense when they are playing together. It's a shame that today we didn't have our fans here with us, but hopefully they can enjoy at home.
Big win for Arsenal, this one, Barry. Very big win.
Massive win. I think that in terms of every department, everything from selection down to pattern of play, down to the tactics, I think Arsenal won in every one of those departments. You look at how Kieran Tierney was getting a lot of purchase down that left flank. It was as a result of Matt Doherty not getting any help from Gareth Bale. They used and exploited that very well. You look at every area of the pitch, Arsenal was imperious. Yes, Spurs fans will look to the last few minutes and say that they tried to stage some sort of a fight back after they went down to 10 men, but that was just a scant consolation for an Arsenal side that was at it and needed to be in a derby of this nature.
It was a derby, and Mourinho had come out, Chris, as he usually does before these games. You know, lots of mind games. I think he talked about I don't look beneath me heading into big games.
Yes.
I only like to look at the teams that are above me, which obviously was a bit of an insult to Arsenal as they are currently sitting in mid-table. But if there's a side that played like a mid-table team, it was Spurs. You know, despite the attacking talent that he has, Mourinho seems to be continuously failing to bring out the best out of those players.
Failing to bring out the best of those players. And it's always so interesting when Mourinho comes out and there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of gab before a game. You almost know that this is not going to end well for him. And that's exactly what happened here. There was a lot more gab, I think, than there was in terms of his own application of the players that he's got. He wasn't able to go at Arsenal the way that they came at him. I think we saw in Arsenal a lot more hunger, a lot more fight, and that's definitely what managed to get them this win.
Odegaard has come in from Real Sociedad, you know, the young Norwegian prodigy. Lots of big talk around him when he was a teenager. Went to Real Madrid. He was supposed to be the new Lionel Messi. It didn't work out for him. He wasn't trusted in Madrid. Went out on loan at Real Sociedad, where he caught the eye with some eye-catching performances. He's come to Arsenal, and after a slow start, he seems to be adding value now to this Arteta project.
Yeah, he's catching on, and also I think Arteta has found a way to use him. He's using him a bit like the 10. With Mesut Ozil leaving the club, we saw Emil Smith-Rowe play in that role quite a bit, and to good effect. But with Odegaard arriving, he's been sort of relegated to the wings, onto the sides, and is doing a good job there. But that's opened up the space for Odegaard to play as that 10, and in that position, he's been very effective because he's a player who can pick up pass, but also arrive late in the box like he did yesterday, and then deliver goals as well. So I think he's being used to good effect by Mikel Arteta.
Your thoughts, Barry, on Lacazette? Because here's a guy that people don't normally like to talk about. You know, we talk about the other star players, but Lacazette always seems to fall under the radar, as it were. Your thoughts on his performance?
Fantastic, and that's with and without the ball. I think he worked his cotton socks off to put pressure on as the first line of press, and then also when with the ball he managed to use it effectively. I think his link-up play with his midfielders was fantastic. He went all across the pitch, and that's what you need, especially if you're carrying the captain's armband with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on the bench yesterday.
Well, Barry brings in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Chris, he was left out over disciplinary issues. So Arteta making the big call before the game. The result went his way, and he's vindicated for sticking to his guns and saying that, you know what, I will not tolerate any indiscipline, no matter how big you are as a footballer.
And it's absolutely critical, I think, for any team that you're building, for any team that you're working with, for players to understand that their discipline is important, regardless of whether they're the team's talisman or not. They need to adhere to whatever rules and for whatever disciplinary issues that there were, rightly punished, and Arsenal still going on to carry the day.
Arsenal going on to carry the day, and of course beating Tottenham Hotspur in the North London derby. Manchester United were also in action, and they moved back to second place thanks to a 1-0 win over Champions League chasing West Ham at Old Trafford, secured thanks to Craig Dawson's second half own goal. West Ham, no pushovers, and they were absolutely resilient, Barry, versus Manchester United. But United getting the 3 points, and at this stage of the season, that's what's critical. It's about picking up the points. It's not about flashy performances. It's not about overwhelming teams. It's not about hat tricks, but it's about getting the points that will see you achieve your objective.
Yeah, and in truth, West Ham coming to Old Trafford, you'd have thought there would be a bit more fight than there was in defensively. There wasn't much offensively, but you can only beat what's put in front of you, and Manchester United managed to do that. Craig Dawson himself had a bit of a strange day for me. He seemed like he at times wasn't interested in playing, and then at other times looked imperious in defense. So shucks, a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde performance there.
West Ham, did they miss Jesse Lingard? Because this run of good form that they've had, Chris, over the last 2 months, there are a lot of people who are saying it's Jesse Lingard. He's coming from Manchester United on loan. He's coming with motivation, with a point to prove, and he's been driving, or he's added that flair and attack to the West Ham attack, and he's driven West Ham forward. He couldn't play in this game because he was up against his parent club, Manchester United, and it looked like they missed him.
It definitely looked like they missed him. I think David Moyes has been able to use him quite effectively. He's been scoring goals right from the word go. There's a hunger about him that just wasn't there when he was at Manchester United. Now he's at West Ham. Like you said, he's got a point to prove, and he's been absolutely critical in their wins simply because he's been a goal-scoring machine.
Well, talking about points to prove, there's a big one to be proved tonight. It's the champions, or should I say, the outgoing champions, Liverpool, who take on Wolves to show if their resurgence is something that people can bank on. Liverpool, imperious in Europe, struggling at home. They visit Molineux.
From Rufaro to Barberfield, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Let's go to Italy. Leo Serie A weekend results looked like this. Lazio 3-2 winners over Crotone. Atalanta imperious 3-1 over Spezia. Sassuolo 3-2 winners over Hellas Verona. Fiorentina 4-1 winners on the road to Benevento. Genoa and Udinese couldn't be separated. 1-1 that one ended. Bologna 3-1 winners at versus Sampdoria. And then Parma 2-0 winners over Roma. Inter Milan winning against Torino 2-1. But the story will be Juventus out of the Champions League, and the way to bounce back is to come to domestic competition and win well. According to head coach Andrea Pirlo, Cristiano Ronaldo channeled his anger at Juventus' Champions League exit in midweek into a decisive display in the Bianconeri's 3-1 win over Cagliari yesterday. Michael, you got to say to yourself, Cristiano Ronaldo gets the 3 goals, but should he have been on the pitch for that long?
No, he shouldn't have. And I think the negative press that he suffered in the lead up to this match actually saved him. You could tell that the match officials were reluctant to be involved or to be at the heart of further controversy involving Cristiano Ronaldo. What am I talking about? High boot, studs in the face of the goalkeeper, on his chin, drew blood, guy needed stitches. Game stopped for 5 minutes. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to go for the ball or not. We have seen several times in big European games players being sent off for endangering an opponent. So his intention was to play the ball, but if you land your foot, Barry, flush in the face of your opponent, it's a red card. And so the match officials bottled it, and Juventus took advantage. Cristiano Ronaldo had already scored before that, a header, but then he capitalized, left foot, right foot, was able to complete his hat-trick before halftime. And a fitting response, some might say, to the criticism that he's received in the lead up to this game, where people were questioning his worth, his value to Juventus. He's bounced back in the only way that he knows how, and that's through scoring goals. But there are many who feel that he shouldn't have been on the pitch after that high boot challenge to the face of the goalkeeper.
Mike points out the perfect hat-trick that Cristiano Ronaldo scored, Chris. Left foot, right foot header. And in truth, you could see it in his goal celebrations, going to the camera and talking about the fact that I'm still as good as I've ever been, because the talk has been that way inclined. Is he good enough to carry this team?
It's tricky. If you take a look at it, that performance that we got from Cristiano Ronaldo we're not getting that as regularly as we used to. Yeah. So regardless of whether he still got it, he's still Cristiano Ronaldo, but can he do it as frequently as he used to? Cristiano Ronaldo could do this week in, week out when he was at his absolute prime. So is he still the same player? Yes. Can he still do the same things? Possibly not. Can he carry Juventus possibly to winning the league again? I'm going to lean towards a no.
Leaning towards a no. Well, there's talk he might be going back to Manchester United. So the question will be asked, can he do it on a cold, wet, windy night?
I hope he does go to United, because for me, if United were to buy Cristiano Ronaldo, listen, say for commercial reasons, it will be a step in the wrong direction. You got young upcoming strikers like Greenwood, you got Rashford, etc. Why should they be sharing game time with a guy who's 36, 37 years old? Doesn't make sense.
At United, it's not the United way. The other result in Italy, affecting, of course, the race for the Scudetto, AC Milan midfielder Sandro Tonali insists that they must not dwell on their defeat to Napoli after the Rossoneri lost 1-0 to suffer a heavy blow to their title hopes.
Alcohol may be hazardous to health if consumed to excess. The operation of machinery or driving after the consumption of alcohol is not advisable. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18 years.
Castle Lager is more than just beer. It's pure liquid gold, crafted from the finest local ingredients to deliver a taste that is somewhat dry, somewhat bitter, but never sweet. It's the taste that stood the test of time. It all comes together with a castle.
Let's take into Spain now. Your La Liga weekend results: Levante with a 1-0 win over Valencia. Alaves versus Cadiz, that came to a 1-1 draw. Osasuna versus Real Valladolid ended goalless. Celta Vigo versus Athletic Club also ending goalless. Granada 1-0 against Real Sociedad. Aiba going down 3-1 against Villarreal, and Sevilla 1-0 against Real Betis. Atletico Madrid coach Diego Simeone, though, admits his La Liga leaders are nervous after their 0-0 draw with Getafe. Mike, Diego Simeone obviously honest there, because Atletico Madrid would definitely be nervous to be sitting at the top, but dropping points against teams like Getafe. Look, it's a competitive league, but you should be able to pack away Getafe if you're going to win La Liga.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's got a very good record actually versus Getafe. I think I read somewhere it's like he's played them, I think 19 times, never conceded a goal versus Getafe. But this time it was a question of him trying to break them down, because they need goals to win matches, to get the points that will land them a title. This is where the nerves are coming in. The only thing that will work in his favor is that the two sides chasing him, especially Real Madrid, are struggling. We were talking about Barcelona struggling at the back end of last year. Now it's Real Madrid. Yes, they did win Real Madrid 2-1, but it was a last-ditch, last-minute effort where it was a smash and grab in a game that they should have won comfortably. So that will give Diego Simeone some sort of hope to say, okay, we are still ahead. It might just be a marginal lead now of, what is it, sort of like 6 points to Real Madrid. If Barcelona wins, then that gap is cut down to, 4 points to Barcelona. But that's still a decent enough advantage, because had you offered Diego Simeone at the start of the season a 4-point advantage after 27 matches, he would have taken it. So he'd rather be ahead than chasing at this moment in time. And you hope that the inconsistency of Real Madrid continues, and that Barcelona perhaps don't have it in them to carry on winning like they have been over the last 3 months.
Well, speaking of Real Madrid, Zinedine Zidane is delighted with the character Real Madrid showed to clinch a late 2-1 win over Elche, but wishes his side could have scored earlier. Barry Mike is talking about that scrappy affair, Real Madrid and Barcelona kind of scraping through, not at their best, and Atletico Madrid might be seeking some comfort in that. But Real Madrid is managing to literally scrape together these wins.
Yeah, scratching and scraping, and that's where I agree with Diego Simeone about the nerves, whereby you've got campaigners who know how in your ranks. Real Madrid has got a bit of that, Barcelona too. Atletico Madrid will just need to knuckle down and see it out, and you can see Zinedine Zidane, he's got that going on with Los Merengues.
There's more action tonight. Barcelona will be taking on Huesca.
Let's wrap it up with a weekend update from Germany, where Augsburg beat Borussia Mönchengladbach 3-1. Union Berlin 2-1 winners over Cologne. Mainz 1-0 winners over Freiburg. Wolfsburg too good for Schalke. Schalke absolutely battling. They want this season to end so they can go to Bundesliga 2. Wolfsburg 5-0 winners over Schalke. Who would have thought? Arminia Bielefeld beating Bayer Leverkusen 2-1. Leipzig 1-1 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt, and then Stuttgart 2-0 winners over Hoffenheim. Bayern Munich cruised to a 3-1 victory at Werder Bremen, with striker Robert Lewandowski climbing to second place in the Bundesliga all-time scorers list as the champions open up a 4-point gap lead at the top. And then Borussia Dortmund scored twice in the second half in a 2-0 victory over visitors Hertha Berlin to grab their third Bundesliga win in the last 4 games and move back into 5th place. The train is back on the rails at BVB. That's all we got time for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't forget, it's our Top Hit Tuesday show. So music to look forward to, sport to look forward to, lots to look forward to. Until then, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.